I woke myself up when I turned in my bed and fell out. As funny as that sounds, it was not. I rubbed my head that I hit on the side of my bed, gritting my teeth. What a great start to the day, I muttered to myself, then got to my feet. I ran a hand over my hair that was stuck up and tangled, meaning I needed to brush it. I scanned my room for my hairbrush, then found it on the drawers in front of my window. I started slowly brush my hair while looking out the window at the quiet back of my house. It was peaceful, and the sun's rays were making it look almost like a heavenly vision from before the world went to hell. I would give anything for it to be as it was before, even if I would get bullied. After thinking to myself about the past a little more, I finished brushing my hair and put the brush back down again. I then got dressed in my usual clothing before I went downstairs. Outside it still looked cold, which was expected for September in the north of America. What was expected, though, was the apocalypse, which was while I marked another day on my makeshift calendar. It was cold outside today, and there was a biter on the driveway just near my gate. It was stood slouching and was making some painful growling and snarling noises, showing that it was in pain, even though it was dead. I started walking over to it, holding my knife in my right hand to strike the biter in the head. I left the body there and wiped the knife clean of blood, then turned to walk back to my house. I got some breakfast, which was some fruit about to expire, then got a drink of water as well. I left the back door open as I stood in front of it, feeling the cool air on my arms. It was a sweet relief that I got from being a survivor of the end of the world, that I welcomed and savored for a few minutes that dragged on feeling like hours, until I caught the scent of the rotting biter corpse outside. I was a reminder to me, and I looked out the door, seeing that there were other biters now feasting on the body of the biter I shot. I cringed at them before I took out my knife again to use to kill them as well. It took me about 10 seconds, and 2 stabs to the backs of their heads, and the silence came back again. I had become used to the silence now that it was normal in the world. After wiping some blood off my knife, I put it away and began to drag the bodies of the biters away, like I had done many times before. That task took me about 15 minutes, but not even the birds chirped to make it go fast. It just dragged the more I dragged the bodies. That was miserable. After dragging those 2 bodies, I went back, seeing that I was left with the body of the first biter that was mangled and rotting. There was a nasty smell from it as well, which made me want to vomit. But I kept it down. I thought about this smell, though. It was revolting, and maybe it would put off bad guys like that thug from attacking. I call me paranoid again, but I want to be safe, and if that means sacrificing clean air, then so be it. There was a strange chirping noise coming from outside that woke me up the next morning. I couldn't tell if it was a bird or an animal of some kind, or maybe a biter, so I hauled myself out of bed and looked outside. Outside my back door, there was a person that looked like a biter, though, but the person was sobbing and crying out for help. I grabbed my gun from my room. It was the handgun that was in the kitchen, but I keep it close to me now, and dashed like Sonic down the stairs and to the back door. I was sneaky about it as well, so she didn't see me but kept crying. "Hello? Is someone there? Anyone?" She called desperately. "Yeah, I'm here," I called back, holding my gun in both hands ready. The safety was off and it was loaded, just in case she drew biters near my house and it went down. Oh, thank goodness, please. "I need help! Please!" she cried, terrified sobs escaping her lips. "Are there any biters out there?" I asked, sounding a little paranoid. "Gotta work on that, Josie," I told myself. "Bee biters?" She sputtered questioningly. "Those monster things," I said to her, sighing. "Oh, no, there aren't," she said back. I was still debating in my mind whether or not to let her in. But again, as I did for that family, helping someone out wouldn't do me any harm. Unless they want to kill me, that is. "Why do you need help?" I asked her, holding the metal back door handle. I'm hurt." "Please, I need help," she cried back desperately. I sighed, letting my good side take over, then opened the door to her. The girl stood before me was probably only just 5 foot tall, had long tangled black hair, and wore some tattered jeans and a torn blouse. She didn't have any bags or anything with her, and her face was covered with dirt and blood that had been smeared together by the tears flowing down her slightly chubby cheeks. I looked her over to see if she had any major wounds, but I couldn't see any. Thank you so much," she cried and hugged me tightly. I just stood there, not sure if I should hug this stranger back, but I just patted her shoulder, making her move back. "Come on in," I said, moving aside to let her dash in. "What's your name?" The girl asked me while I put my gun into the back of my pajama bottoms to keep it safe. This girl could still turn on me. Josie, I replied, and she smiled. I'm Amy, she told me, then hugged me again. Oh, God, I whispered when she did but let hug me. I gathered she liked them, could just need some. So, why are you wearing pajamas? She asked awkwardly, and I looked down, feeling going red with embarrassment. She'll probably make fun of me like the idiots at school would do. I'll toss her out on her ass if she does that, though. I hadn't got up yet, I told her, standing with my arms crossed. Oh, is it just you here? She asked, and I nodded. Why are you asking loads of questions? I asked her with my eyebrow raised. I just want to know that you are okay, she said with a heavy sigh, then held her head on her hands and looked like she was in deep thought over something. To be honest, I want to know the same, I said to her, and she tried to smile again. I am good, and I'm sure you are as well. It's just I've been through some... She trailed off and started to cry. I didn't want to ask her what, because I could be opening a can of worms that I didn't want to. I pursed my lips, then lowered my arms, trying it look nicer. Then I spoke. Would a shower help with that? I asked her, and she lit up like a kid on Christmas, then nodded. Come on then, I said, jerking my head to Amy. I lead her up the stairs, and she legged it to the bathroom as soon as she saw the door to the room that I told her was the bathroom. Go easy on the water, I shouted to her when I heard the sound of the water starting to gush. Will do, she called back. Then I went into my room to get dressed. I opened my wardrobe to get my black skinny jeans, a white t-shirt with a black skull and crossbones on it, my black boots, and maybe my leather waistcoat. No, save that for later. You want some clean clothes, Amy? I asked, giving my long black hair a quick brush. Please, she shouted over the shower. I dug out of my wardrobe a pink t-shirt, which I hated, and a pair of light blue skinny jeans and some purple Converse. I never wore them, even though my aunt, who I only met once or twice, bought me then. But I never wore them because I hated the outfit. It wasn't me, and thankfully my mom understood and didn't make me wear them. I'll just drop them on the bathroom floor, I stated, dropping them as I spoke. Okay, Amy shouted back. Then I closed the bathroom door and waited. So, are you maybe okay with letting me stay? Amy asked, then shut off the water. Maybe. For the night if you want, I offered, sighing quietly to myself. I didn't want anything permanent because I couldn't imagine someone else other than my family being here with me. Amy was nice, so I would make an exception by letting her stay overnight. What about that room down the hall? She asked, coming out of the bathroom dressed in the clothes I have her. I shook my head. No, you can sleep on the floor in my room, I stated bluntly, laying down the law of my house. Why? Are you hiding a secret there? She asked dramatically, and I rolled my eyes. No, it's my parents' room, I told her, crossing my arms again. Oh, well, can I not stay in there? She asked, shifting her weight on one leg, and crossed her own arms, expecting me to give her that room. I nearly laughed at her disrespectfulness. No, that isn't a guest room, I added, then walked down the stairs before she could reply. I went into the kitchen to make myself some breakfast, or lunch, or whatever meal of this time of day it was. I ended making a plate with ham sandwiches on it. Amy came in not long after with her hair brushed again. It was a little rude that she didn't ask me first, but I had other brushes in my room. What are you making? Amy asked me as I finished them. Sandwiches. Enjoy, I said with a smile, handing her a plate. Oh, thank you. There is a lot, she said, studying the plate that had a mountain of sandwiches on it. Yeah, I got a bit carried away, but we can eat them, I said, getting 2 onto my plate. Amy piled 4 onto her plate, which made my eyes go wide. Hungry? I asked while she scoffed the 5th sandwich into her mouth. She nodded, getting crumbs all over her shirt. Do you have anything to drink? She asked me with a full mouth. Yeah, we have some juice and soda, or you can have some water, I listed, but she shook her head. I mean alcohol, she said, swallowing. My eyes went a little wide. There was a strange chirping noise coming from outside that woke me up the next morning. I couldn't tell if it was a bird or an animal of some kind, or maybe a biter, so I hauled myself out of bed and looked outside. Outside my back door, there was a person that looked like a biter, though. But the person was sobbing and crying out for help. I grabbed my gun from my room. It was the handgun that was in the kitchen, but I keep it close to me now, and dashed like Sonic down the stairs and to the back door. I was sneaky about it as well, so she didn't see me but kept crying. "Hello? Is someone there? Anyone?" She called desperately. "Yeah, I'm here," I called back, holding my gun in both hands ready. The safety was off and it was loaded, just in case she drew biters near my house and it went down. "Oh, thank goodness, please." "I need help! Please!" she cried, terrified sobs escaping her lips. "Are there any biters out there?" I asked, sounding a little paranoid. "Gotta work on that, Josie," I told myself. "Bee biters?" She sputtered questioningly. "Those monster things," I said to her, sighing. "Oh, no, there aren't," she said back. I was still debating in my mind whether or not to let her in. But again, as I did for that family, helping someone out wouldn't do me any harm. Unless they want to kill me, that is. "Why do you need help?" I asked her, holding the metal back door handle. I'm hurt." "Please, I need help," she cried back desperately. I sighed, letting my good side take over, then opened the door to her. The girl stood before me was probably only just 5 foot tall, had long tangled black hair, and wore some tattered jeans and a torn blouse. She didn't have any bags or anything with her, and her face was covered with dirt and blood that had been smeared together by the tears flowing down her slightly chubby cheeks. I looked her over to see if she had any major wounds, but I couldn't see any. "Thank you. Thank you so much," she cried and hugged me tightly. I just stood there, not sure if I should hug this stranger back, but I just patted her shoulder, making her move back. "Come on in," I said, moving aside to let her dash in. "What's your name?" the girl asked me while I put my gun into the back of my pajama bottoms to keep it safe. This girl could still turn on me. "Josie," I replied, and she smiled. "I'm Amy," she told me, then hugged me again. "Oh, God," I whispered when she did but let hug me. I gathered she liked them, could just need some. "So, why are you wearing pajamas?" she asked awkwardly, and I looked down, feeling going red with embarrassment. She'll probably make fun of me like the idiots at school would do. I'll toss her out on her ass if she does that, though. I hadn't got up yet, I told her, standing with my arms crossed. "Oh, is it just you here?" she asked, and I nodded. "Why are you asking loads of questions?" I asked her with my eyebrow raised. "I just want to know that you are okay," she said with a heavy sigh, then held her head on her hands and looked like she was in deep thought over something. "To be honest, I want to know the same," I said to her, and she tried to smile again. "I am good, and I'm sure you are as well. It's just I've been through some—" She trailed off and started to cry. I didn't want to ask her what, because I could be opening a can of worms that I didn't want to. I pursed my lips, then lowered my arms, trying it look nicer. Then I spoke. "Would a shower help with that?" I asked her, and she lit up like a kid on Christmas, then nodded. "Come on then," I said, jerking my head to Amy. I lead her up the stairs, and she legged it to the bathroom as soon as she saw the door to the room that I told her was the bathroom. "Go easy on the water," I shouted to her when I heard the sound of the water starting to gush. "Will do," she called back. Then I went into my room to get dressed. I opened my wardrobe to get my black skinny jeans, a white t-shirt with a black skull and crossbones on it, my black boots, and maybe my leather waistcoat. "No, save that for later. You want some clean clothes, Amy?" I asked, giving my long black hair a quick brush. "Please," she shouted over the shower. I dug out of my wardrobe a pink t-shirt, which I hated, and a pair of light blue skinny jeans and some purple Converse. I never wore them, even though my aunt, who I only met once or twice, bought me then. But I never wore them because I hated the outfit. It wasn't me, and thankfully my mom understood and didn't make me wear them. "I'll just drop them on the bathroom floor," I stated, dropping them as I spoke. "Okay," Amy shouted back. Then I closed the bathroom door and waited. "So, are you maybe okay with letting me stay?" Amy asked, then shut off the water. "Maybe. For the night if you want," I offered, sighing quietly to myself. I didn't want anything permanent because I couldn't imagine someone else other than my family being here with me. Amy was nice, so I would make an exception by letting her stay overnight. "What about that room down the hall?" she asked, coming out of the bathroom dressed in the clothes I have her. I shook my head. "No, you can sleep on the floor in my room," I stated bluntly, laying down the law of my house. "Why? Are you hiding a secret there?" she asked dramatically, and I rolled my eyes. "No, it's my parents' room," I told her, crossing my arms again. Oh, well, can I not stay in there? She asked, shifting her weight on one leg, and crossed her own arms, expecting me to give her that room. I nearly laughed at her disrespectfulness. No, that isn't a guest room, I added, then walked down the stairs before she could reply. I went into the kitchen to make myself some breakfast, or lunch, or whatever meal of this time of day it was. I ended making a plate with ham sandwiches on it. Amy came in not long after with her hair brushed again. It was a little rude that she didn't ask me first, but I had other brushes in my room. What are you making? Amy asked me as I finished them. Sandwiches. Enjoy, I said with a smile, handing her a plate. Oh, thank you. There is a lot, she said, studying the plate that had a mountain of sandwiches on it. Yeah, I got a bit carried away, but we can eat them, I said, getting 2 onto my plate. Amy piled 4 onto her plate, which made my eyes go wide. Hungry? I asked while she scoffed the 5th sandwich into her mouth. She nodded, getting crumbs all over her shirt. Do you have anything to drink? She asked me with a full mouth. Yeah, we have some juice and soda, or you can have some water, I listed, but she shook her head. I mean alcohol, she said, swallowing. My eyes went a little wide. Why do you want that? I asked her. I need a drink. I haven't had one in ages, she replied, rubbing her temple. How old are you? I asked, raising an eyebrow. She did look younger than me, but only by a year or 2. I know we're at the end of the world, but she shouldn't be drinking at her age. It doesn't matter. Just give me a drink, she shouted, and I flinched back a bit at her volume. Her eyes went wide, realizing what she did. I'm sorry, she sputtered, looking down in shame. It's okay. The bottles are in the cellar, I told, pointing to the cellar door that was on an L with the kitchen door. She quickly opened it with a harsh tug and trotted down the stairs. I decided to get myself a drink as well of juice from the cupboard closest to the door. I rested up against the kitchen sink with my drink in my hand. I found myself getting lost in my thoughts as well. They were about Amy. Second thoughts about her were starting to cloud my mind. Was she trustable? And was she as nice as I thought she was? Those questions I was trying to figure out for what felt hours. It was only 10 to 15 minutes, and I started to wonder where Amy was. Amy, I called, looking at the open door to the basement. Nothing. Amy, I shouted louder, walking over to the basement door, looking down the stairs into the dark. I could hear the sound of heavy breathing before a heavy sigh, then a slight cry of pain and something slicing. Oh God. Josie, Amy's terrified voice screamed then. I dashed down the stairs into the basement and saw Amy in the corner, an empty and broken bottle of wine at her side and blood spilling out of her chest like a gushing river. Oh my gosh. Amy, what did you do? I asked her quickly, rushing to her side. She looked up at me, teary-eyed and breath stinking of wine, before she replied. I couldn't do it. I couldn't go on Josie, she said weakly. No, Amy. You can't do this to yourself, I cried, looking at the wound. It was deep and the glass was still sticking in. I had to Josie, you know when I said about me going through some... Amy trailed off, her eyes fluttering shut. Some what? Some shit? I asked frantically while shaking her lightly so that she opened her eyes again. Yeah. Shit. You know what it was? She asked me, and I felt my stomach turn at the thought of what could have gone through. I didn't reply to her, though. It was seeing my best friend, and my sister be raped by our teachers, and then get raped myself and beat up. That's what it was, she whispered, eventually trailing off. I gasped and felt my stomach flip over. It's scary. What the end of the world does to people, isn't it? Amy just managed to whisper as her eyes flutter shut and the life left her body. Oh God, oh God. I cried, tears forming in my eyes. I shakily stood to my feet, covering my mouth with a hand, then stumbled back, resting up against the wall. Amy's body still lay on the ground. It was a reminder, the ghost of what I just found out. The elephant in the room that couldn't be ignored. How? How can teachers do that to their students? How can the world become so messed up in, 10 days? How can humans turn into monsters even if we are at the end of the world? And why didn't Amy tell me sooner? Amy, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I sobbed over her body. A couple of tears fell onto her body and mixed with the blood that stained her skin, the skin that had been forcefully tainted by monstrous men. I started to breathe heavily. clenched my fists, flared my nostrils, and glared at Amy's body. The monsters that did this to Amy, her sister and her best friend, would not get away with this. I silently promised Amy that. Day 10, and I had made a pledge to kill. I made a bit of space on the plate, then put one of the sandwiches in that space, and separated the ham of the sandwich from the bread, then used my knife to cut the bread into little squares. I then picked up a handful of the squares and scattered them onto the floor. Sure enough, the robin and the squirrel came back, with some little feathered friends too. They all enjoyed mopping up every little crumb from them, finished it in seconds, making me have to cut up more bread into squares. I didn't even have to toss it far because they were close to my feet, that I was keeping perfectly still, and they happily ate all the bread up sadly. Speaking of which, there were a couple of other little birds there. There were lots of them living in the fields behind the houses and at the front across the road. Now, though, there probably weren't that many. As for now, there probably were just biter bodies there, or the odd biter wandering around forever lost. Well, forever being stupid. There weren't any biters around on the drive at the back of mine and the other houses, thankfully. My body had grown tired of killing them day in, day out, even though I know I'd have to kill more of them eventually. Probably in the next hour or so if I'm lucky. But right now, here, surrounded by what's left of the local wildlife, I was happy. I hadn't been like this since the last Friday before the world ended. My mom and dad surprised me by saying we were going up to my aunt and uncle's lodge for the weekend to do all the cool woodsy things I've always loved to, and would like to do again someday. Aunt Scylla also promised me that she'd take me fishing the next weekend. If I was counting the days right, then that weekend had passed. Just like how my aunt had passed horribly. Just like how humanity's time on Earth had passed. And just like how my sanity was passing by thinking this deeply. Well, then again, in this world, everything sane, or what people thought was close to it, is gone. So having only a small amount of it wouldn't kill me. It would probably do me good so I could keep going. But I didn't want to become inhuman. No matter what, if I did, I'd be the biters. I'd be a monster. I need to keep going. I need to survive. I muttered to myself while the birds chirped happily and the squirrel tried to take another slice of bread from a sandwich. I smiled at it, watching it drag the bread off the plate and on the floor so it and the birds could peck and nibble away at it. I neatly and quickly cut to the rest of the bread, then feasted on the ham, and finally stood up to my feet. My legs were asleep, so I had to rub them and walk back and forward a little in the back, careful to not disturb the eating animals, and they were back to normal after a few walks around the kitchen. I put the empty plate on the side of the sink to be washed later, then went to the fridge. I had put a couple of water bottles in there to keep them chilled and wanted to use one. I also grabbed my key so I could lock the door behind me when I'd leave the house to go check up the road, past the cars that were blocking the way. It was the only way to the school, and the only way to revenge for Amy, and I wanted to take all the precautions for when I'd go. What the hell? I whispered, unable to believe what was happening in front of me. 3 rats, all stood around in a circle, devouring a poor defenseless rat alive ruthlessly. What was causing them to behave like that, I had no idea. I thought the only crazy cannibalistic creatures that existed in the world now were crazy bitten people. Not little rats, unless maybe they were getting infected too somehow. But if it was the same disease, then why were they not being slow and stupid like biters? Maybe they were linked to the whole disease ending the world. But right now I knew that I couldn't live with myself letting these little devils run around and kill their own kind, like what was happening to mine. I know they were just rats, but we're all living things. I raised my gun and shot the 3 rats, 1 bullet for each before they had time to react. I then hopped back over the bonnets of the cars and walked in silence back home to my house, making sure to make a mark on the makeshift calendar for the day, day 11, when I found out that not only are there cannibal undead humans in the world, but the world's population of rats are having the same problem. I stayed downstairs that night to sleep on the couch. Didn't want to go back upstairs because when I got home, my stomach started to feel horrible. I thought it was hunger, so I got the first thing that came into my mind, which was chocolate, and ate it all quickly. Still, my stomach felt horrible, if not worse. I didn't want to be sick, so I just decided to sleep it off. Next morning, I woke up at just after 10 a.m., still feeling sick and in pain. As I sat up holding my stomach slowly, then swung my legs off the couch to rest them on the floor, I felt as if my innards were the site of a bloody war that was raging. That could only mean one thing, and that thing was confirmed when I went to the bathroom. It was that time of the month. God damn it. I whined to myself, getting the sanitary pad I needed that I need every time this happens. I hated this whole thing. and found myself cursing Mother Nature for making me a girl, and for making it so that all girls had to go through this god-awful cycle. Also, I cursed the stupid bathroom cupboard for not having an unlimited supply of them so that I wouldn't run out. I would probably have enough for this cycle, but would need to get more sooner or later. I could have sworn I told my mom I was getting low on them. I would never tell Dad because he'd run and tell Mom and she'd deal with it. Cut out the middleman saves time and embarrassment on my part. Where the hell am I going to find pads? And why didn't Mom get me some? I would probably end up in tears by the end of the night due to hormones. So I didn't cry over my mom as I went downstairs talking to myself after I changed all my clothes. I went through to the kitchen, not checking out the dining room window to see if there were any biters. I went to the fridge door and took down the sticky note that Mom used as a shopping list to see what she put. Sure enough, sanitary pads were on the very top. It didn't say just for me at the side of it, which I remember she had done in the past. Must have been in a rush, but she always remembered things like this when I asked her and never failed to get them done unless she was dead, which she was now sadly. Although I wouldn't be surprised if I woke up one morning and find loads of packets of pads in the backyard brought by her ghost, or her as a biter, or maybe as herself. Maybe she survived the crash. No one would be them in this world now, let alone me who was getting a bit too thin to wear them even if I wanted to. So using it for a fire for heat and light that would probably need in the future, because the power wouldn't last forever. There was one more thing that I found in the backpack that had women's clothes. And that, believe it or not, was a small pack of pads. Just like the ones I used too. How convenient and awesome. I smiled to myself, putting them to one side before I sorted through the clothes I had found. I put the men's clothes in one backpack. Maybe I could leave the backpack outside, maybe for someone passing by. But if a hungry person came by and saw that thinking it had food in it, but opened it up and found some stupid clothing, especially if it was girl opening it, they would be pissed off or sad or both. Leave it somewhere in the house, maybe with my dad's clothes just in case. The women's clothes I'll leave in the other backpack, and the pads would go in the bathroom. When I put the stuff all away in the places I decided they'd go into the house, I returned to the chocolate bar waiting for me in the living room. I collapsed on the couch, throwing my head back so I was looking straight up at the ceiling, letting my strained but still busy body breath a bit. That didn't last for long, though, because the sick feeling was back in my stomach, and I felt it getting worse and worse by the second. I couldn't take it anymore. I was going to be sick. Running like I was trying to escape a mad murder or a dangerous carnivorous animal, I went through the dining room to the kitchen. Vile, weeping up my throat like a murderer or predator would do around creepy corridors as I went. Got there just in time to almost land on the side of the sink with my hand slamming onto the counter in front of me and my back bent over so my head was above the bowl. Rivers and rivers of horrible puke kept coming and coming out of my mouth with chewed up, partly digested chunks of solid food, and the strong smell of stomach acid came with it. The great taste in my mouth made me gag up every little bit that was brewing in my stomach all day, due to the mess my body was forced to be in by hormones and the rubbish that comes with periods. But I would still have to deal with it in the apocalypse, and if I could go through it, then I'd be stronger. In the back of my mind, though, I wish my mom was here because she'd be here to hold my hair out of the way and rub my back soothingly while I threw up my guts, and possibly a few other organs with it. She'd also be here to hug me, make sure my breath didn't smell, and watch TV with me on the couch, too. Couldn't watch TV anymore, though, since the channel didn't work. All I could do was sort my breath out by brushing and hug my pillow when I went back into the living room. The chocolate bar wasn't appealing to me anymore. Mom, at least I would eat chocolate at this time from I needed here right now. Why didn't I think that after? What 12 days I'd get over her death? Why? I didn't know. I just cried like I said I would before. Cried with a hungry stomach in a lonely house for hours. Had to stop to change into pajamas and change my pad. Cursed Mother Nature again, too. Cursed her. That's what I did on day 12. Cramps and a headache woke me up early that morning. It made me feel like shit, and made me just want to do there for the rest of the day. But of course I just couldn't do that. I got up from my bed that I managed. I get myself into when it got dark last night. I walked like one of the biters into the bathroom to do my business, change my pad, and to just wash and get myself ready for another day. I dressed in fresh clothes, some dark skinny jeans with a black My Chemical Romance shirt, and my black Converse shoes. I didn't feel sick today. If anything, I felt hungry. So I got myself a couple of apples and some water. I calmly stood in the kitchen about to replenish myself with the food and drink when I stopped. My headache was worse, and it felt like someone had filled my skull with weights, then shook my head for hours. making them all bash against my brain so that I could hardly function. I needed to take something for it. Now where did I put the medicine basket? I asked myself, sighing heavily. I poked my head over my shoulder, looking towards where the kitchen went into the dining room, trying to think where it was. It wasn't kept in the basement like the food and water was. It was in the bathroom cupboard at the back of the bottom shelf. I always thought it was weird of my parents keeping it there, but it would be a safe place to keep it now, and a good hiding place. Providing I keep other stuff in the bathroom cupboard to keep those hidden and don't tell anyone I don't trust. Medicine was one of the most important things now. And when I went out, it would have been an idea to take some with me wherever I went. I was planning to go further up the road towards my school, maybe to search around some of the large fancy houses that were on that road. More supplies for me and more biters to kill so they couldn't hurt anyone else. I also knew that I would need to bring a proper bag with stuff I'd need to be prepared. I walked through my house to the hallway and equipped, then turned it upside down, letting all my books and stationery fall out. Never used them much anyway, I muttered, shaking my bag so that everything was out of it. I returned to the kitchen, then got out in my bag my knife. That did need a clean at some point. My gun, some energy bars, canned tomatoes with a spoon for that, 2 bottles of water, and a clip of extra ammo for my handgun. Its current clip of ammo was getting a little low, so I'd need it. My gun and knife I would strap to my body, but the rest would go at my backpack that had room. I still had that crate from yesterday I could use to carry food too. So I grabbed that from the kitchen on my way out, locking the door behind it and putting my keys in my jeans front pocket. I marked another day on the calendar outside the door, then set off jogging out of that garden, then up the street and over the cars. I started panting heavily when I got to the badly broken body of that biter I killed before, but kept going until I got to one start of the row of large fancy houses. The first one was like every little kid's dream. 3 floors high with an attic, a large garden, wide gravel-covered drive, and a stunning shiny wooden door that to my luck was left open slightly. But that made me cautious because it could mean someone or something had already broken in there and could still be in there. I slowly walked up the gravel-covered drive, careful not to place my feet to make as little crunching sounds as I could. "Hold it right there, little lady." A voice from just the other side of the door shouted at me, and I froze. "I'm not here to hurt you. I'm just looking for supplies." I called back, drumming my thumbs on the sides of the crate. "You are armed?" He sounded excessively cautious, almost like he was paranoid about everything in the world. "Understandable. It is for defense. Against those things," I called back, calling them things and not biters to not confuse him. "That is what those thieving thugs said. Then they broke in and robbed a lot of things from me." He shouted, then a softer voice spoke, telling me there was more than one person in there. I could not make out what the other person was saying to the man, but I did use this to my advantage to move closer to the house, striding quickly up to the front of the door. "What the hell are you doing?" The man suddenly shouted, making me jump back in shock. "I am just looking for supplies, that is it. I will not rob you like those thugs. I can tell you my neighbor was attacked by them and I had to stop them." The second person gasped, then said something to the man, and I heard their voice getting louder along with some footsteps telling me the person was moving closer to the door. "How did you kill them?" The second person, a woman I knew now, asked me. "I shot them. They had a gun to my neighbor, and they could have harmed me too." I told them. Then there was a pause. "No, Velma. She could be one of them," the man protested, and another set of fast footsteps approached the door. "I am telling the truth." I pressed, then took the weapons I had strapped to me off my person and slowly placed them on the doorstep. "I'm unarmed now." I started taking a step back. The front was pushed open a little more than the head of a tired-looking black woman I'd say was in her 30s, with big, deep brown eyes. She looked me up and down, then saw my weapons were on the doorstep. "She's telling the truth. Arthur," she said, straightening up to open the door, fully to reveal she had on a nurse's uniform and stood next to her a white-haired Asian man, much older than her, but a bit shorter, with a silver-bladed axe in his hand. My eyes widened looking at it, but he held it firmly in his hands, glaring at me skeptically. "Go away, little girl. We have nothing left for you," he seethed, pointing the axe back down the driveway. "Perhaps you do, and perhaps I have something for you too," I suggested, really liking the look of that axe. Not just for defense, but also construction. The snow would be coming soon, so I would need to get wood for fires both inside and outside my home. I would offer them food, medicine, even a couple of guns for it. The best weapon I had that was for melee attacks was the baseball bat of my dad's, but I could get wooden for fire with it and defend myself as well with that bat. No, leave, he shouted, taking hold of the axe once again in both hands. Arthur, enough from you too, he shouted at the woman, but she did not flinch. She just sighed. I pursed my lips in disappointment, then slowly bent over to drop my box to the floor. I'll take my weapons, put them in this crate and leave, I calmly told them, not looking at all. The man named Arthur glanced down at the weapons on his doorstep, and as I reached out my hand, slowly to pick them up again, he placed his foot on my knife, but the metal skidded against the smooth, polished stone of the step, causing Arthur to slip and fall back, with the axe getting tossed out of his hands, landing behind him in the entrance of the house. He cried out, holding onto his right shoulder, and the woman rushed to his side instantly. Arthur, she exclaimed. I rushed into the home, standing above them, and saw them both looking up at me, terrified with wide eyes like a pair of scared rabbits. They were probably expecting me to steal from them or even kill them, but I wouldn't do that. I didn't even want to kill any biters today. Are you in much pain? I asked the man on the floor, but he shook his head slowly. He's always had problems with his shoulder. The woman fused, trying to help him to his feet. But he shunned her to get up on his own in an attempt to be the man despite being in pain. I will not let you attack us and vandalize my home. The man snapped, wanting to keep his pride and honor as he used his axe to help him back up to his feet. Then let me help you get back into the safety of your home, I replied, then nodded to Velma, who smiled, and we both together carefully helped Arthur up to his feet. He protested a little at first, and frowned when Velma took the axe off, holding it in her other hand, while we slowly but steadily led Arthur back into the house. She led me into the entrance hall of the home. It had been looted with drawers left open, shelves emptied, and some furniture was stolen too, I think. The lounge area just to the right, a few strides down, looked emptier than it should have been. There was no seats or couches in the loud room, but it was tidier than the hallway. We can put him over there on the mat, she told me, gesturing to it with the axe. It was just a bare mattress with a blanket and some pillows on it. He began to cooperate now, resting on his other shoulder to give his bad one some relief. There, thank you. She sighed deeply, then rubbed her hand over her face, then scratched the top of her head. When was the last time any of you got to sleep? I asked, looking from her then to the man fighting to keep his eyes open now. I can't remember, I'm that tired, she told me, shaking her head. What do we call you then? She asked me, resting her hands on her hips. I'm Josie, I told her. Well, Josie, thank you. And thanks for not robbing us. She thanked. Yet, Arthur muttered, glared at me with his barely opened eyes. Not. I told you I'm not here to harm you. I want to trade with you if I can, I offered. We don't have anything to give to you, Arthur snapped, trying to push himself upon the mattress. I like the look of that axe. I can think of 101 uses for that, I replied, making the two of them look at the axe in Velma's hand. Does that include killing us with it? Arthur asked, moving to sit on the edge of the mattress. I just rolled my eyes, sick of this guy now. Then I turned to Velma, who actually knew I wasn't going to hurt them or steal from them. What do you guys need then? Meds? Food? Guns? I offered. Velma's eyes went wide, a little overwhelmed at what I was offering, but I was serious about it. A good night's sleep, for both of us, and maybe a few of those things you mentioned, she replied, and I nodded. I can go fill that crate with all that stuff and bring it back, I promised, and she nodded. Be careful of those things, she warned, referring to the biters. I will, I replied, then looked over at Arthur again, who was silent. No longer giving me crap, but he didn't look happy either. Velma walked me to the door where my crate still was waiting. I picked it up and turned to face her once again. I'll see you soon then. Lock your door, I told her, and she nodded a little. Then I took my leave, walking at a steady pace. I was back at my house in no time. No new biters were around, but the day was passing on into the evening. I went down into the basement to get cans and packs of food, medicine, water bottles, a knife, and a gun with 2 clips of ammo. I remembered those clothes I found in that backpack and knew they could be useful for them, especially Velma if she just had her uniform. Shinning that on my back and picking up the crate again, I left the house for the second time. The sky had gotten darker with the sun going down. I still didn't run, though, because the stuff in the crate would be clinking about, possibly attracting biters, or those thieves wherever they were. It had to be somewhere near both my home and Arthur's home. Let us in now, a man's voice, slurring slightly, shouted. Looks like they were closer than I thought and liked, because as I was turning around the corner to the driveway to Arthur's house, I saw 3 men, all about middle-aged, that had some blood on their tattered clothing at the door, which was still closed. I instantly backed up back around the corner so they couldn't see me, my breath increasing and adrenaline filled my system. I couldn't just run away, though. Even though they were still strangers, I couldn't let them die like this. I dropped the crate and the backpack off, then took out my handgun and knife. "Okay, Josie, you got this," I encouraged myself. Then crouched near the corner. I popped my head just round it and pointed my gun at the biggest one's head. "We don't have anything left to give you." I heard Velma scream from inside the house, but the man in the middle just chuckled maliciously. "Oh, I'm sure you have something, honey," he said, and I wanted to be sick. "You men are vile," Arthur shouted in defense. He must have been near the door too crazily. "You'd do the same if you could, old man. Now open this door." He barked and began kicking the door. He was moving around too quickly that I didn't have a clean shot. I aimed for his back instead, then took a shot, making the man swear, then stumble over against the door. The 2 other men took out guns, then swung around looking for where the shot came from. "Leave them!" I shouted, hiding behind the corner again, but they both just fired at me. "Go! Go!" one of them said, making me assume they were trying to get closer. I lowered myself down even more so I could see slightly around the corner but still have some cover. One of them was moving down the driveway towards me. "Just leave them and I won't shoot you," I told the guy getting closer to me, but he just aimed at me. "Dylan, stop." The guy Dylan stopped, then slowly turned his head back to the door. I glanced over, seeing that Velma had the axe above the other man's head. "Put the gun down, son." She told Dylan, who did as he was told. "Hands up." I told him, standing up, then moved over to get the gun off the ground, still pointing my own at him. Arthur then came out of the house, walking and moving slowly, but his face showed no pain or tiredness to get a handgun and a knife off the guy Velma was controlling. He then pointed with the knife to him to move to his companion that was further down the driveway. Velma and Arthur both followed, and we stood in a line in front of them. "Should we let them go?" I asked them. "They will come back," Arthur pointed out, and aimed the gun he had at Dylan's head. "No, Arthur. We be the better people and let them live," Velma disagreed. "We can let them go now, and we can use what they have seen as a message to them to never come back," I said. Then slowly turned my head to the 2 terrified men. "Right?" I asked them. "Yeah, right," the other guy replied, stuttering slightly. "Velma, is the other one still alive?" I asked me and said yes, then told me she'd go get him. He groaned and whined in pain as Velma helped him to his feet and dragged him over, some blood trickling off the wound in his lower back. "We'll leave you with his gun. Something to defend yourself against the undead," I told them, as they supported their injured friend. They slowly stood up and backed away down the drive. "Come on, man," Dylan hissed to his friend frantically. Then they set off, moving as quickly as they could away from the house. Velma and I had our own injured person to help, though, because when the 3 attackers were out of sight, Arthur collapsed, landing on his good shoulder but holding his bad shoulder close to crying. "Damn it," Velma huffed as we both dropped to the floor near him. "We need to get you something for the pain so you can rest," she added. "I have some painkillers for that. We need to get him back inside," I told her, then rushed over to get the stuff I brought while she made him sit up, then wrapped the arm of his good shoulder around her and her own arm around his waist. "Told you I'd help, didn't Arthur?" I said as I entered the living room after closing the door behind me. "Yes. Forgive me for doubting you," he told me, hissing as Velma lowered him back down on the mattress again. "It's okay. Understandable too," I shrugged, sitting next to him with the box in front of me so Velma could look through it on her knees. "Ah, here they are," she exclaimed with glee, getting out the right medicine as well as a bottle of water. "Come on, take these now," she encouraged quickly, holding them out in front of him. Arthur slowly, his hand shaking a little, took the pills from her and put them in his mouth, while Velma cracked open the bottle of water for him to drink from. "Some clothes in the backpack for you, by the way," I said, gesturing with a finger to the backpack. Velma looked over her shoulder at the stuffed backpack. "Thank you. Oh, and if you want to stay for the night, you can. It'd be safer maybe just for now," she told me, making me look down and think about that. My house I know I locked, but I still was reluctant about leaving it empty. But I could give up a night, even if I didn't sleep, for the safety of myself and them. They might even be able to sleep properly for once. "Okay." I will, I nodded and she smiled. Good. And thank you for what you have done, Josie, she said again. And Arthur even cracked a small smile, too. No problem, was all I said back. We made some adjustments to the room so it was more comfy and safe, and before we knew it, night had set in. Arthur was the first to fall asleep, and Velma did too after watching over him for some time. I stay up most of the night, but it didn't matter, because on day 13 I had helped some strangers and made them into allies. The next morning I was woken up by Arthur, who had a skeptical look on his face looking down at me. I had only gotten a couple of hours sleep and he didn't seem happy about that. What if those thugs came back? He asked abruptly as I sat up resting my elbows on my knees. They didn't, I replied, and he hummed lowly. That was brave what you did yesterday, I will say, but as someone taking watch, you are terrible, he said, frowning in thought. I could almost hear the old wheels turning his small head. You can fight the zombies, yes? He asked, making me frown. Zombies? I frowned at him using that word. It is what they are. He stated, a good point, and it was better biters. Yeah, zombies. I agreed to nod. Why did you ask? I questioned, going back to the previous topic. You can teach us how to fight them also? He asked me, making me frown deeper. Why would you want to learn to fight zombies? He tutted at me, asking questions as well. So we can be safe, of course. He replied, making me feel stupid for asking. I can try. I'm no expert in it. I shrugged. Well, a good way to start can be the damn zombies on the other side of the garden fence, Velma suggested with a shrug that crossed her arms. There a lot? I asked, and they both nodded. Come this way if you want to see for yourself, Velma said, jerking her head to the door. I followed her with Arthur behind me slowly out the living room, down a spacious, ransacked hallway into the kitchen. It had been picked clean. Velma and Arthur must have chosen to stay in the living room. It looked like it would have been a nice-looking kitchen when all kind of great food would have been cooked up. There was a set of glass doors set in black frames that had a huge crack in one corner and some bloodstains on the outside. Wow. I get why you want to learn to kill them, I said out loud as Velma opened the doors. I only just managed to fight that thing off. Arthur had to hose all the blood off me. Good thing I didn't get bitten, she replied, opening the doors to let the cold from outside in. How did they get over the fence? I asked, stepping out of the kitchen to the gray wooden porch, seeing the 10-foot-tall wooden fence. It was some no good from the school that wanted to steal from us, Arthur commented bitterly. Yeah, there were some douchebags at that school, but I never thought any of them would try and do that, I stated, heading closer to the fence, as Velma set up the tall metal ladder that was placed on the ground in front of the fence. Well, I think he was desperate and bitten already, she stated, standing back from the ladder. I have only ever seen people change quickly, I said, frowning at the spots of blood dried up on the stone tiles that were on one side of the garden. The grass was on the other side that was larger, most do, but it took a few days after that explosion for him to get over, Velma replied as she went up the ladder. Arthur boy, he climbed on her still there, Velma said after she looked over the fence. Bags? I asked with a frown. And the zombies? Arthur asked as Velma walked back down the ladder. They wandered away, Velma replied, then looked at me. Big sports equipment bags. The guy somehow got them in a pile and hopped the fence. She told me, made me realize it must be the sports bags the jocks always seem to have that had either basketball or football equipment. The bags were heavy and bulky when they are full. When you are desperate, I suppose you would be doing the craziest of stuff if you would never do, though. Well, he managed, I said, then walked up to the ladders. If I can get one over, I can show you how I kill them, I said, walking up the ladder as high as I could go, then looked over to see there was one further up the field, away from the fence and closer to the school. Do not bring it near the fence. The fence nearly fell last time, Arthur protested, but I just took out my handgun. Relax, I will shoot them if they do, I told him, and got up on the step below the top one. I then started tapping my gun barrel lightly on the top of the fence that made a noise not too loud, that something that hearful would get the attention of that zombie. I whistled too, and kept looking around in case any other zombies came near. The one that was in the distance did start coming closer, but it was extremely slow. Come on, I huffed, tapping louder. Then the zombie began to move fast towards the fence, breaking into a clumsy run where it wasn't even moving its arms. These things can run? I exclaimed, glancing back at Arthur and Velma. You didn't know? Velma questioned, and Arthur tutted again. Wait a minute. I snapped back when the zombie started to get closer. I jumped over the fence. The bags broke my fall. Then I stood up, seeing it growl while still running at me. Ready, I shouted, sidestepping quickly so that I dodged the zombie, and it crashed into the fence that was solid despite what Arthur said. You sure you can handle it? Velma asked. I looked up, seeing her stood at the top of the ladder as the zombie dragged itself back up onto its feet. Yeah, all it takes to kill them is... I went quiet as I aimed at its head. A shot or stab to the head, I added, then fired the shot at its head, flinching back at how close it was, and that the shot got blood all over me. The zombie collapsed near my feet, making me jump back, landing on my ass, but I dropped my gun to preferring to look clumsy instead of wasting a bullet and risking shooting something or someone. Nice. I was going for the heart or limbs, but the head stops them dead, don't it? Velma asked, and I nodded, looking across the field in case any more heard them. Surprised there aren't any more around, I said out loud, picking up my gun, making sure it was okay.